All right. Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a good day so far. Let me know who's here, who's joining me live. Just say hi in the comments. And if you are watching the replay, just put hashtag replay in the comments. Let me get everything where I can see it, the chat and everything, and then we'll get started. So, did you guys see the topic for today? Um, we're talking all about insulin and the different habits that can help insulin work better. So, so let me know, do you guys have like insulin resistance, pre-diabetes, type 2 diabetes? Are you trying to prevent it? Or does it run in your family? Let me know if you relate to any of this stuff. Um, so today I will be sharing, like I said, some key habits that will help your insulin start working normally again if it's not working normally. Like I said, if you have insulin resistance or pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes, that means that your insulin is not working like it should. And so these habits that I'm going to share with you today are will help your insulin start working normally again with consistency. So I want to talk a little bit about insulin so you kind of get an understanding if you really don't know much about it. I just want to say a little bit about that and then we'll get into the tips. So, so having high insulin means you have low um, insulin sensitivity. Have you guys ever heard that word insulin sensitive, insulin sensitivity? Let me know. So if you do have high insulin or your insulin doesn't work normally, that means that you have low insulin sensitivity. You're not very sensitive to insulin. And that's not a good thing. You want to be insulin sensitive. That's where you want to get to. So, high insulin is a risk factor for developing type 2 diabetes. And that's why you want to get it back to a normal, you know, back to working normally. The key to reversing insulin resistance is to consistently do habits to make your insulin more sensitive. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. The top habits that you can start doing to become more insulin sensitive. And I have three habits that you can do, and they're pretty practical. So it's not like anything complicated or expensive or anything like that. So let's go to the first habit, which is moving your body. That improves insulin. So when you get physical activity, it helps use up glucose in the blood. The more you can use up the glucose in your blood by exercising, it keeps your body from having to release as much insulin to go clean it out of your blood. So um, you're helping your insulin work better. You're helping, get the glucose out of your blood so your body doesn't have to work so hard to do it. So let me know if that makes sense. If you are diabetic, um, I'm sure that you've heard before, like from your doctor, or if you've read things on the internet about type 2 diabetes. I'm sure that you've heard the advice to go walk after meals. And this is very good advice because this helps keep your blood sugar down. It helps keep it from going as high after you eat. You're helping your blood sugar stay down. You're helping use that glucose up before it just sits in the blood, right? And your insulin has to work hard to get it out. Um, so it helps insulin not have to work so hard. And the less your body has to release insulin, the more insulin sensitive you become, right? So if you can get 30 minutes of exercise every day, this will make a big difference in your insulin sensitivity. But any activity you can do will help. So if you're currently not very active, anything you can do to get more active, to get more steps, um, that is going to help your insulin. It's going to help you become more insulin sensitive. So what you can do if you're not a current exerciser, if you're pretty sedentary, what I always suggest is to schedule your walks or schedule your workouts, so that you can get consistent with that. Because if you don't schedule it, then you only do it if you have time, right? But if you make the time and you actually schedule it into your day, and you see, oh, at 6 p.m., I have an appointment to go walk. Well, then that means, you can say, oh no, I can't go do anything. I've got to go walk at 6 p.m. That is your appointment. You are busy. So, and I know that's hard for some people, but that is really one of the best habits that can really help you get insulin sensitive again and help your insulin start working normally again. So the second habit that improves insulin is getting sufficient sleep. And there's a lot of research out there. You can look it up, and it shows that getting sleep consistently improves insulin sensitivity. So, one sleep study concluded that if you can work on extending your sleep by 1 hour, your insulin will go down. So, you know, most people need at least 7 hours of sleep, of quality sleep for optimal health. That is like the sweet spot. Some need 7, some need 8, some need 9, but at least 7 is kind of like the minimum that you need to have optimal health for your hormones to work correctly. And insulin is a hormone. So, if you're not sleeping enough or you're not sleeping good, like you're waking up a lot, then then this is going to throw your insulin off and other hormones as well. So this is why sleep is so important, especially if you have insulin resistance. Um, so, so, so this will help you become more insulin sensitive if you can work on your sleep hygiene and start getting at least 7 hours. Or work on, like, make it a goal to start sleeping one more hour every night. And, that may mean that you have to go to bed earlier, right? Because you may have a certain time you have to get up, so you may have to go to bed earlier. So consider that. And um, let's see. Oh, and I was going to remind you, I have a note in here about this. I was going to remind you, if you're not sleeping well and you do need some more tips on that, I did talk about that. I talked about sleep, I think, in last week's live. I think it was last week's live we talked about sleep. Um, and you can go to that video, it's in the group if you're interested in it. And I gave some very, very practical, easy tips you can do to get better sleep, to regulate your circadian rhythm so you can automatically just get better sleep. So these are very easy tips. So you go to last week's live and you can look at those tips and find out what those are. Um, and some of those tips that I recommend for better sleep, you probably haven't heard of before. Uh, so anyway, try that. You want to work on your sleep hygiene, and then my third and final habit is to eat. you want to eat less carbs and more protein. And I'm sure you've heard this one before. I'm sure, you know, the more research that it comes out, the more it is studied. It really is insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes really is like an overload of carbohydrates and processed food. It's like too much. It's like, you know, we're eating way too many carbs and processed foods, and we've got to limit those, and we've got to start eating more protein, more whole food protein. So if you're eating more carbs than your body can handle, eventually you will develop insulin resistance. And that's really what insulin resistance is. It is working way too hard. Your body is working way too hard to have to get rid of the carbohydrates in your body that turns to glucose, right? And so that's really what it is. You will develop insulin resistance after years of eating too many carbohydrates. And now this can vary from person to person, right? So the amount of carbs that I can eat may not be the amount of carbs that you can eat, and vice versa, you know? Um, some people can handle a lot of carbs without it affecting their insulin, and others can only eat, they can only handle a few amount of carbs, you know, at each meal. Um, so, in order for you to know how much you can handle, you will have to test your blood sugar before and after meals for at least a few weeks for you to figure out, um, you know, how many carbs can you handle at one time. So, if you are insulin resistant, if you have prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, there's no reason you should not have a blood sugar monitor, a glucose monitor. You need one of those, and you need to ask your doctor for one of those. If you don't have one, they can call you in a prescription for that. You no cost to you. So you need to get one of those, and you need to start testing your blood sugar and figure out how many carbs you can handle at each meal. So I'm going to explain how to do this. Um, so, if your blood sugar goes above 130 milligrams per deciliter after eating, um, then that is your clue to lower your carbs. If it should not go past 130 milligrams per deciliter after you eat, or and if it does, then you need to lower your carbs at your meals. So if you're currently eating 50 grams of for 50 grams of carbs, and that makes your blood sugar go over 130 milligrams per deciliter, that means you need to lower it a little bit and see what it does. And then if it's still over 130 after you eat, then you need to lower it a little bit more and just keep lowering the amount of carbs you're eating it until it's consistently under 130 when after you eat. So, let me know if that makes sense. Um, so, so I can't give you an exact number of carbs, right? I can't give you this many carbs is how much you need to eat at each meal because everyone's different, right? So that's why you have to have a blood sugar monitor and you have to test it. And that's exactly what I did with me. So I knew how many carbs I could eat without my blood sugar going too high. Um, so, uh, and you want to eat that when you do eat carbs, you know, I do an 80-20, 80% whole foods, 20%, you know, more treats and things like that. But most of your meals, like if you are going to eat carbs, most of your carbs need to come from non-starchy vegetables, low sugar fruits, and beans. We don't need a bunch of bread. We don't need a bunch of pasta. We don't need a bunch of processed, packaged carbohydrates that come, you know, that are highly processed. That that is terrible for our insulin and terrible for our diabetes, and it'll just create more symptoms and more health issues. So you want to stick, for the most part, at least 80%, your carbs need to come from the non-starchy vegetables, like broccoli and salad and um, Brussels sprouts, asparagus, all those good, healthy, high nutrient vegetables. Um, and then low sugar fruits like berries. Berries are one of the best kinds of fruits for insulin resistance and diabetes because they don't have a big impact on your blood sugar. And then beans, they're pretty good. Now they are higher in carbohydrates, but they do contain a lot of fiber and nutrients. So, just be careful of your portion sizes with that. You don't want to eat like a whole can of beans. You just want to have one serving. Um, also, so we talked about lowering your carbs. Now let's talk about protein. So, because protein has very little effect on your insulin, it is the perfect food for increasing your insulin sensitivity. Some great options of proteins are eggs, beef, poultry, seafood, cheese, Greek yogurt. All of these things are great sources of protein. If you can handle like dairy and things, then cheese and Greek yogurt and cottage cheese, these are very high in protein. And you just want to make sure that you're getting things low in sugar, like the yogurt. You want to make sure it's not high in sugar. It's high protein, low sugar. But these are great sources of high quality proteins that you can eat, and they won't have a big impact on your insulin or your blood sugar. So, so as you lower the amount of carbs that you consume, if you do eat a lot of carbs right now, then you can make up for it by eating more protein. And that's really going to keep you more full. You won't feel like you have to eat all the time. You won't feel like your stomach growling all the time. You'll just feel full and satisfied. And at the same time, you're going to be becoming more insulin sensitive and and really reversing that insulin resistance and that diabetes. So, I know this can feel overwhelming to work on all these habits at once. So I would suggest just picking one and focusing on just that one until you get consistent with it. So, either choose, start moving your body more, or start working on your sleep hygiene, or start eating less carbs and more protein. But just choose one right now and focus on that. Don't try to do all three at one time because you're going to get overwhelmed and burned out and you're going to quit. So just choose one, work on that, get consistent with it, and then you can add another one and then the other one. Um, but even doing just one of these habits consistently will help improve your insulin. You will, if you're testing your blood sugar, you're going to start seeing it go down, and that's because you're becoming more insulin sensitive. And if you can't seem to stay consistent with your habits, like if you can't seem to stay consistent with these habits, if you've tried them before, if you've tried other habits before and you can't seem to stay consistent with them, um, then or break habits. We even have habits we want to break, and we can't seem to stick with what our plan for how to break them, or how to stay consistent with healthy habits. I'm going to leave my link to my Cravings to Confidence course down there, down in the comments when I get through with this live. This course is a $97 course, and it will teach you all about habit change and how to really get consistent with it and make it stick, like for good, for life. So the information that I teach you in this course it's been a game changer for me as well as my clients. So it's a $97 course, and it's got four pillars and four videos that you watch, and then you do I will instruct you what to do in that video, and there's even worksheets. It's very easy to follow. So if you do have trouble staying consistent with your habits or breaking habits, then I would suggest checking that out. Like I said, I'm going to leave a link to it below, and you can just click on that link and read more about it. But that is all I have for today. I hope you have a great day and a great week, and I will see you next Tuesday. All right, bye.